Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And we are going to talk about Ronnie West on this program coming up soon. He will be inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. And so we want to talk a little bit about him and what I think last time we did part one on Ronnie West. And truly, this is the reason we started this. To keep his memory alive, plus other wrestlers alive. Am I correct, Jack?
Exactly.
This is and I think when we last said, I said that our father Ronnie West would sit on the stage and eavesdrop on some things going on, and so I want to pick up from there of the little things that he was eavesdropping on during this time. He said he remembered eavesdropping, and Nick Gulas and Jackie Fargo was fussing with each other over Nick wanting Jackie to work only for Nick Gulas because at the time Jackie and Don were traveling all over the world, and he told Nick, "Well, pay me, and I'll stay here." And he said, "You pay me what they're going to pay me in New York for the Madison Square Garden shows." And he said, "Book me in Cleveland, pay me the same thing." They're going to, Nick said, "Well, you know, I can't do that." And so they said that, he said, "Well, yeah, I knew that you weren't going to pay me that." And Jackie just walked away. Can you imagine listening to this in 1962? This would have been 1962, 1963. He's not but 15, 16-year-old listening to Jackie Fargo and Nick Gulas complain with each other. That would be a very interesting conversation, didn't
it? Surely Nick had to be joking. I mean, certainly he had to be joking. I mean, he would send him. He was going to be in New York City or Cleveland, Tennessee. National Guard Armory, Cleveland, Tennessee. Hold maybe 500 people, if that.
Well, Jackie was billed, and I think we did look at this on one of the other. Jackie was billed at one time as the world champion for promoter Jack Pfeffer.
Yep.
We saw that video. So he was paid really great. And actually, Jack Pfeffer is the one that actually got the Fargos booked in Madison Square Garden. He was the one that was instrumental in getting them booked. And he would make maybe $100 in Cleveland, Tennessee. Probably $750 back in the days when he'd wrestle in Madison Square Garden back in those days. Now, that was great money. This is one thing he said. He said, by the way, Nick Gulas would not book Jackie as the world champion. He said he wasn't going to make the NWA man. He did say, though, that Pfeffer would stand on the stage and argue up and down that he should say that Jackie Fargo was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He said he would sit there and just argue with it. I don't know why Jack Pfeffer showed up he was actually promoting Boston, Massachusetts. What did he come down to Chattanooga all the time for? And evidently argue with Nick Gulas every Saturday and Thursday night. Because, sometimes they'd run Chattanooga on a Thursday night and come back and run it on a Saturday. And they would sell out both cards. Our father, Ron West, said Pfeiffer's the one who taught Gulas the old change the name just a little from a wrestler that was getting good press in the wrestling magazines, which back in those days was called the Ring Magazine, a boxing and wrestling magazine together. He would put that name on someone and push it like it was his guy. What was you doing, Jack?
These are some of those boxing, wrestling, illustrated magazines from back in the day. These are from 1959 and 1960.
Wow, great stuff. And let me read this. He said he says this in an interview he does with Scott Till and David Williamson. David Williamson also did this interview with him. He said Nick was always scared of Jack Pfeffer because he thought Pfeffer would come to his area and try to start promoting. Back then, the promoters respected each other's territory, but Pfeffer was one of those guys who tried to steal whatever talent he could get.
Yeah, he was trying to throw a monkey wrench. Sounds like he's trying to splinter the promoters and get everybody to go with him. That's what it sounds like.
David Williamson, I believe, asked this question. Do you remember back when the Fargos were heels? And he said they were so colorful. They came out in capes and the blonde hair and would strut to the ring. They'd go back to the dressing room between falls and come back in different colored trunks. in between falls. They never came back wearing the same outfit. When they got in the ring, the referee called for the bell, and they said the people would go wild because they would strut and do other. He did say this. He said, when talking about Jackie Fargo when he turned babyface, he said, I remember the night in Chattanooga when Jackie came out and helped Lynn Rossi. Everyone was ganging up on Lynn Rossi. Jackie came out to the ring and cleaned house. Lynn stood up all bloody and offered to shake Jackie's hands. Jackie turned away and walked away from him. That was the start of Jackie Fargo's turn to babyface. By the way, Jackie Fargo told him, you turn me, I never get turned back. He did say that about the and we talked about how he got in the wrestling business, and we told a story about Nick Goulas getting hit in the face, getting hit in the face by an actual Shriner in Chattanooga. Probably not the first time or the last that Jackie got hit in the face by somebody. What, y'all think so?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, they were probably having riots a few places.
All right, now it says let me see where I got to pick up at. Let's see. Well, they asked him, did you have notoriety in school by refereeing at that early age, because he was going to school at the same time? And he said yes. He said they all watched me. He said, I refereed just about every Saturday night on TV here in Chattanooga. It was a big deal about wrestling back then. We'd sit around at lunch and talk about wrestling. 5 o'clock in the afternoon was TV time. If you were out to the drugstore or somewhere, you hear people say, hey, I've got to go home and watch wrestling.
That's right.
That happened for years. He said those guys were stars, but they wasn't making as much money as the guys are making today. Yeah. Can you imagine the money that some of these guys could have made back in those days? Another story. They asked my father, because when he started, he didn't get paid. Okay, he was that what we call in the wrestling business the experience pay. Jack, you've had the experience pay before, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, I know I've got the experience pay. Rodney's got the experience pay. They asked him when he got paid, and he said, I got paid on Christmas night, is when they smartened him up, actually, as well, on a Christmas night. And he said that was sometime in 1963. He said, Nick paid me by cash. But now he did say, he said he gave me a envelope, and he said, I thought it was going to be a lot of money in there, and it was all in ones.
Yeah, that's Nick. That's Nick right there.
Jack, you ever get a payoff with a bunch of ones?
I did.
You know,
it always made me mad if it was an odd number payoff.
I will tell you this. This is something that he says that happened to him. It was Christmas night in 1963. Do you know which wrestler smartened Ronnie West up when he was refereeing? Jackie Fargo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jackie Fargo. He said, on Christmas night, 1963, they let me referee in Cleveland. That's when they did it. Jackie Fargo was actually the one that smartened me up. He said, the house is full, and we have to have it full next week. So this is what we're going to do. So that's who smartened up Jackie Fargo. By the way, Dad loved Jackie Fargo.
He sure did.
That was his, no doubt, that was his person growing up. He loved Jackie and Don Fargo, and eventually Roughhouse Fargo. He just loved them, and he he got the blonde hair when he was that age. He did it all. And by the way, our father also, during about the same time, maybe a year later, he bought a store when he ran through it. You remember that story, Rod?
Yeah, he was taking the ring to a town, and brakes on the I guess it's on the trailer failed and pushed him right through a restaurant. And so I believe it was in Trenton, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he got our grandfather got to help buy that store. They owned the store. There just wasn't one there when he ran it through. There's so much other stuff. When we talk about them again, we're going to talk about the Infernos and how he was there, how our father was there when J.C. Dykes and the Infernos were getting their team together. And it's a very interesting story of what he talks about and how they go about becoming the Infernos. It's a very interesting story. By the way, Jimmy Dykes was the one that promoted Cleveland, Tennessee for years. And then Harry Thornton come along and he started promoting Cleveland because Jimmy was going to leave and become J.C. Dykes, and he was going to manage the Infernos. Very interesting story. We'll talk about Frankie Kane and what my father thought about him during that time as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us the big thumbs up and subscribe to the page and go one step further and hit that notification bell. And we'll see you on the next episode of Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.